Good morning. This is a video morning brief. The U.S. stock market, Tuesday, March 11, 8:53 a.m. Eastern Time. Okay, quick snapshot here. Level 4 bottom could have been placed yesterday. They got a little anxious overnight, but now they're easing back. And the problem is, I'm all saying, the level 4 bottom should probably bottom no later than today, and it's favoring early over later. So here's what I'm looking for. I wonder if we could possibly be setting up for a ready, set, go pattern where they bounce overnight for the futures. Maybe they open it unchanged and take it up just a little bit and then take it back. But if they don't take out yesterday's low, then take it above the overnight high, the current intraday high maybe for cash, that may be a sign we got that level 4 bottom. Because here's what it really should do. It ought to move higher into tomorrow. Okay, and it may even move higher into the next day. There's an alternate forecast of just how we're timing. In other words, I might put a level 4 top in right now, blip it down, put a level 4 bottom in, and then higher over the next 2 or 3 days. It may actually just be moving higher into tomorrow for level 4, then down. And the bottom still shows up today or yesterday. Don't know. We have to leave the door open for some more selling here. People are really bruised. They're hurt. They're really worried. They're really concerned. The data just gets worse and worse under Trump. Trump's pretty much said, hey, if we have to have a recession, let's have it. He's willing to burn the house down, okay? And people didn't like that, and or at least they took it that way. Maybe he didn't think he was going that far, but I think they took it that way. And we've got an airline going to raise prices because of baggage, but all the airlines are reporting business is down. They don't see business doing good this year. Not horrible. They're just not as good. I think Americans are tightening their belts. They're saving their money. They're just worried about the future. And I think more and more of this recession stuff is becoming more and more important here. And I think the whole world's a bit shaky. And then we got all this tariffs and fighting and all that stuff to go on. So this thing can go down, down, down for quite a while, next few weeks as alternate scenarios. But it seems very low probability. It seems like we've done enough. There's time for a bounce. So I'm looking for not only a level 4 bottom yesterday, today, and a bounce by tomorrow, and maybe for the rest of the week even. I'm looking for a level 3 bottom yesterday, today. But unfortunately, I still got these other alternate forecasts saying, no, it may take all of this week to find that bottom. And it may even go lower in the next week. And if it does that, I may be able to say there's a far more important bottom coming than a level 3. I don't know yet. It's tricky, all right? But it's looking like it ought to move higher from this week into next week for the level 3. So I think it's going to bottom this week. And it was at least one scenario, and the best scenario right now is it could have bottomed yesterday, today, something like that. But it may take a little bit longer. So it may be better to do more like trend following, saying, hey, the trend is down, and look how this was some kind of economic formula for them to stop selling. But overall, they kept on selling, okay? They bounced it off from it. Yesterday, they went below it. To me, there was a little bit of panic. And you get panics Friday or Monday more than you get during the week. And it's mostly Monday is the worst, okay? I think we might have washed some things out a little bit here. The problem is Trump gives us bad news every other hour. And so does his people. And sometimes his people are against Trump. And Trump's against them, all right? And so we just don't know for sure how this is all going to flow out. But it's looking like, to me, there's a possibility it's a little too late to truly keep selling here, that we need a bounce to sell into if we're going to sell, all right? So I think if it can trade on up to 56.84, 57.43, we've got a chance to move higher into a level 3 top next week. I think if it gives us a nice update, not up just a little bit, but a nice update, or follow through 2 or 3 somewhat updates, something like that, I think we got a chance that it's a level 3 rally, okay? Now, it did come down to our additional downside target I had here for the futures. It found a little bit of support. It's oversold. It should move up. Now let's move to the 60-minute chart, and I don't know if I gave you these levels yesterday or not. I might have added them later in the day, I forget. But it came right down to it, bounced off it, great. Looks like it was trying to go down to this one, couldn't do it. It may yet go to 55.54, 55.29, and yet it may be ready to go back to these old downside targets, 56.89 to 57.43, and we got a gap up into that. 57.43 is an upside target. We got a gap up in there, and about 58.20 is an upside target. We've got these old downside targets that can be upside targets as well. I think there's something going on, and let me move to and this is oversold enough, it should bounce. Let me go to the daily chart now. So hopefully I can explain this on the level 3 side. First of all, let's just look at the S&P 500 no model analysis. Cash market is dropped 9.5% basically from the record high. So that meets some of my targets I set up a year ago, 12 months ago, that this year we ought to see a -7 to -11. And then I went 13. And then I said, boy, under Trump, we may have to do -20, -30, -60%. It's all on the table. All on the table. And we might even be setting up for a 1987 crash now in the May, June, July. But 1987, it dropped 8%. Well, we've dropped 9%. Then it bounced about 6%. And I think I'm setting up for upside targets of 5,900 by April. But then it should pull back into May, June, July. Well, in 1987, it would have done something like that, bounced up about 6%, 5%. Then it dropped like another 34%, or at least it was off the record high by 36%. And it did it all in about 3 to 4 months span. It could do the same thing. It could get that ugly, folks. So we have to be careful here. And I have affiliates that are concerned it's just going to crash anyways. It's not even going to bounce in April. I can't get there yet. It's like it's dropped a little too fast for me. And that could be me and wrong. Well, the model is actually having some similar problems with it. All right, so it took a nosedive below the 200-day average. It a gap down overnight, okay, for the opening because of the futures. A little buoyant now. I think it should bounce back to the 200-day average, and it might do this in just the next 2 days or retrace a little. Then I'm concerned it might come down again and maybe lower, then finally move up over the next couple of weeks, then down over the next couple of weeks. Those kind of zigzags where it might flounder around a little above and a little below the 200-day average for a little while here before finally getting into an up move into April to maybe getting back to near 5,900. I think that's how it's going to be. Then we're going to be ready for another big decline into May, June, July. Maybe that, hopefully that gives you a little bit of help. This is the NASDAQ 100 trying to turn around, but I got a scenario when the level 3 bottom isn't going to be placed for a couple of more days, if I'm right on May 28th. If I can put it over here, and by the way, the S&P 500 does the same thing, Dow Jones a little bit different. If I put it over there on February 18th or something like that, it's saying it ought to bottom right here, right now. It should be done, okay? And then we got other scenarios saying, now it could take a few days yet. So it's a bit confusing, a little sloppy on us, and people are just in jittery panic mode that it's understandable why they're looking at multiple scenarios. I've been looking at multiple scenarios for quite a while. All right, this is the S&P 500 futures, and I'm thinking this red line right here, it's going to bottom in that. All right, I'm just going with that, blindly going, it's going to bottom there. So maybe it's bottoming today, all right? And on the cash market, it might have bottomed yesterday. And watch out for a ready, set, go pattern in the cash market. If they sell it this morning, don't take out yesterday's low. Then they move higher still, and you see the futures took out their overnight high. And we get a positive day. That could be a trigger to buy above those overnight highs and that sort of thing. And watch the prior day. At any rate, I think it should move higher. Actually, what I want to do is put this out like this. This is what I'm looking for. I think it needs a few days of upside, okay? And when I look at the Dow Jones Industrials on its 200-day average, it just looks like, why wouldn't it deserve to bounce up? This is beautiful. Came into my target, went below it. They tried to bring it back to it. They were also watching the 200-day average more than anything. If it can move up out of that box and move above, say, 42,378, something like that, around that. In other words, get up to 42,500. I think it's a positive sign. When it goes through a target box, then goes back through it in the opposite direction, that can be a sign of some kind of a bottom. And then you have to go to the model saying, well, is there a bottom due? And what type of a bottom? And do I want to do something about it? All right. So I think yesterday was a little bit of a panic here of washing things out. I think they've overdone it. Let's double check on the 200-day average for the S&P 500. And, same story. I think it's just time to put it up some. All right. And what else can I show you? I did the futures on the NASDAQ. NVIDIA, that's down quite a bit, beaten up. Don't have anything to say there. Mag 7 is down 21%, someone said. What a sale. If you could have put that on a 2X fund, it would have made 40-some% down. I did well. I took a piece of this, but I didn't take what I normally could take. out of these big declines. I got too caught up in I want to make some actual money, withdraw it, and spend it. And then I got scared. I don't want a loss. I want to make this next trade right, okay? And I was really asking too much, really, in that regard. So it was money management, risk management that I don't put into this model. The model can help with risk management and it can help with money management because it's analysis. You have to have analysis to know when to do something and some reasons why, but then you need your money management to tell you how much to buy, what to buy or sell, and then you need your risk manager saying, where the hell do you get out of this when you're wrong, okay? All right, and the model can help with that risk management, but it's primarily helping, hey, this is what we want to do. Weekly chart, big down into my lowest target, but I want to warn you, this thing could crash 60%. This could be a 1987 scenario when it's going to bottom now in the next few weeks, go up into April, and then crash and burn into May, June, July. I'll explain that more in the weekly update, but keep an eye on that. But at any rate, here's what we're looking at. Starting next week and later, I think this market bottoms. For a level 3, and it may not be this level 3 that's due now. It may be another one a couple weeks from now that might be lower, might be higher, don't know yet. But it's just starting to make me feel like, hey, most of the selling ought to be done. It may be too late to just sell on the way down, that we're better off waiting for a bounce to sell. And sooner or later, we may even want to buy for an up move by April into that level 2 top, just in case it's a very nice up move, okay? In case that we found a much more important bottom than I think. And that's an alternate scenario that I'll discuss in the weekly update. At any rate, it should rally into April, down into May, June, July. It should bottom anywhere from now. Today is one scenario, but really it shouldn't bottom till next week or the following week. And I'm thinking it's actually the following week. So I think it's time to pick its head up some, move back to the 200-day average, maybe a little above it, maybe back below it again. So I'm kind of saying a rally to maybe to 5,700 cash in just the next few days, next week, pull it back, rally it again, and somehow it's going to rally to maybe around 5,900 by April. And then I think it's going down, 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 down. And we'll talk about that more in the weekly update. In the meantime, I just don't know if we got the bottom or not. If I can get an up week, I think we have to gamble on a level 2 bottom. All right, we'll just have to see. If it occurred this week, I'd still be a little shaky about it. For a level 3, I think we need 1 or 2 up days here to tell us it's time for some relief. That's the way it looks to me. It's time for relief. They overdid it here, shooting to the downside. Now, if this is all correct, what should occur now into April is a little less negative news out of Trump and the Trump people, a little less burning down the house, okay? Some of this tariffs kind of smooth over a little bit where people can catch their breath. What's scary is I'm not so sure Trump's going to let up at all, which is what makes me think we could have a 1987 crash in May, June, July. But unlike 1987, meaning if it was 1987 right now, it's due to bounce probably in April, then crash, all right? It's a little bit drawn out crash. What's a bit scary is maybe this thing has to crash down to 54, 5100, which is what I'm using right now. And someone famous on Wall Street just come out with 5300. It was either Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan. Maybe it was Morgan. I can't remember. Said 6,000 to 5,200. It's all over the map, but they still think 6,500 by the end of the year. So they're allowing for a lot of wild, crazy stuff and bearishness yet, but it's going to clean itself out, supposedly. Now, also, one of the big Wall Street firms, I think it was Goldman Sachs, Trade Desk. Again, I may have them wrong because JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and Goldman Sachs, I watched those one basket, and then I forget who said what. Anyway, they were saying by some historical studies during these bad times, certain types of traders that are betting a lot on the downside, they've already sold 10 billion. They got another 17 billion to sell in the next 5 days, and then they think maybe things wash out, is I'm guessing. I don't remember everything they said. It's something to think about, but it is just, you know, it's one kind of study that, yeah, it worked back then, doesn't necessarily have to work now, but it is something to think about, that there's still more selling coming, all right? But I just can't help but think this market is ready for some kind of a rebound here, all right, of when I think the S&P 500 cash, if it doesn't bottom today or if it didn't bottom yesterday, I think it bottoms this week. I think it's going to be higher by next week somehow, some way. It's going to fill that tiny little gap in, touch that 200-day average, may yet poke through it. Then I think it's got to back off again. Then I think it's going to move higher, and it's going to do that kind of stuff all the way up to near 5,900, okay, by April. And that's all I see for upside. Now, that's a fair amount of time yet, so maybe they got to knock it down more than I think before going up. But maybe it can stall out that long. All right, we'll talk more about that on the weekly update. At any rate, I don't know. I feel like this is just too low, too fast for me. I can't buy it for an upside, but I can't sell it here for a downside. I got to sell a bounce. Hopefully that's some use for you. Not a lot of insight from Bitcoin. It's crashing and burning, but may start to turn stable here. Gold's just been scratching its head, watching everybody saying, what in the world's going on? All right, crude oil certainly come down quite a bit, worried over the economy, may turn a little bit stable. And then the dollar has crashed and burned a bit here, but it might have a little bit of stability here moving forward. I'm not picking up much clues outside. I think this is all about Trump, and all this recession stuff is on Trump, and it's just a matter of just how much scared can people be. I do think they kind of sell automatically, saying if it goes down to this price level, sell some more. If it goes down to the next price level, sell some more. We may be in an automated, robotic, lack of liquidity, crash and burn moment. I can't help it. I think it needs to bounce for a little while before we have more downside. Past results are not necessary. Predicted future results. Have a great day. Thank you.